Interesting. No.
If there's one prevailing issue with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it's that the movies are far too comedic. This removes stakes from the movie's events and turns the entire affair into a giant joke. Thus, it's hard to maintain interest in a franchise that doesn't take itself seriously. Conversely, because so many of the movies follow this formula, it has the effect of making them feel far too similar. That's even the case with characters who are rarely, if ever, lighthearted, with Thor: Love and Thunder turning the epic Norse god into something of a buffoon. I didn't mind it as much in Thor Ragnarok, but it was really apparent in Thor: Love and Thunder, or excuse me, Thor: Love and Trash. That movie was horrendous. With James Gunn's upcoming DC Universe plans having more diversity in tone makes sense. This will prevent the same criticisms that the MCU is currently facing, all the while staving off another major issue plaguing the genre. The much debated superhero fatigue has supposedly set in with many audiences, and this hasn't helped by the lower quality of recent films and how similar those movies feel to each other. Thus, Gunn is honing in on this issue is a preemptive measure to help the DCU succeed, even with the tide turning against the genre as a whole. Delivering unique experiences is a big part in bringing audiences out to the theaters, but when it comes to tones, this might not have the DCU biggest issue, which I don't think is going to be I think to me the biggest issue that the DC is facing right now is just bringing back the general audience. That's the biggest issue, because the general audience completely gave up on the DCU Snyderverse. They thought it was trash, that it was horrible. Why are we wasting our money when these films are not giving us back what we expected in the first place? And that's the biggest issue that DC is facing right now, or the DCEU. DC is fine. The DC brand is fine because obviously the Batman was a huge success. Joker was a $1 billion franchise. Aquaman was a $1 billion franchise. The DC brand is fine. It's just the DC cinematic universe, these movies that connect with one another. That's the biggest problem. Before the DC Extended Universe movies, DC movie adaptations had a wide range in tones. For instance, the Batman movies, namely the ones directed by Christopher Nolan, were known for their darkness and grittiness. This contrasted the 1960s Batman movie, which was a spin-off of the TV show and had a similar campy tone, the Adam West TV show, which was fun, when you look back. We had like fucking Batman dancing and shit. It was stupid, but it was fun. Love Adam West, R.I.P. Though the Superman movie series delved further into comedy as it went on and was comparatively lighter than the Tim Burton and Christopher Nolan Batman movies, the first entry was noted at the time of release for how epic and grounded its take on the material was. That's the 1970 Christopher Reeves movies, which again, still classic. That's without even mentioning other less well-received movies such as Steel and Jonah Hex that also felt quite different from each other. Those movies were god-awful trash, bro. I would rather have fucking herpes from a Reddit housewife than to ever watch fucking Steel or Jonah Hex ever again in my entire life. A major criticism of the DC Extended Universe was how dark the movies were and how they handled certain heroes. While this is true to some extent, it's inarguable that the DCEU had a lot more variance in tone than many fans gave it credit for. For instance, only Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice, Zack Snyder's Justice League features Zack Snyder's signature edgy tone. The theatrical cut of Suicide Squad was more in line with the seemingly gritty yet actually goofy tone of Sony's live-action Venom movies. That whole Suicide Squad movie was terrible. Conversely, the theatrical cut Justice League was a jarring shift to emulate the comedy of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, with Aquaman and the two Shazam movies going further into this direction. However, Aquaman was actually good, and the first Shazam movie was actually good. I like the second one as well. The first Wonder Woman, while serious and largely lacking in quips, wasn't anywhere near as dark and dour as Snyder's films. In fact, part of the reason that its sequel Wonder Woman 1984 was so criticized is that it was made as an homage to the beloved Richard Donner Superman movies. Wrong. That's not the case. The reason why Wonder Woman 84 was criticized so heavily was because it was a bad script, and Gal Gadot, again, all due respect to Gal Gadot, but she was awful in that movie. Like, she can't act. like she can act. I'm sorry. Like, giving her minimal dialogue is probably best for her as Wonder Woman, but that whole script, the story made no sense. The whole tone was just out of place. It was just a bad movie from start to finish. The Suicide Squad and Birds of Prey were basically R-rated versions of the first Suicide Squad movie, with Black Adam and Blue Beetle, Ferret, fairly normal blockbuster movies in both content and tone. Particularly contentious movie, The Flash was also seen as too humorous, namely in how it portrayed Barry Allen as nothing like the comic book counterpart. Well, that's due to the casting of Ezra Miller, who looks nothing like the counterpart of Barry Allen in the comic books. And plus, the Flash movie, I mean, that whole film was just riddled with, production issues and delays, and you had the strike where the VFX artists were on strike, and it didn't look as great. I mean, that whole movie was just plagued with problems for the like. I think that movie was cursed. That whole movie was fucking cursed from the very beginning. So I can't blame Andy too much, or just the entire project and how it was handled, because again it was just a mismatch of tones and executive decisions, and the whole, and then you had the Warner Brothers Discovery acquisition, and just different directors and different actors. It was just a mess. It was a complete mess. Hopefully the next Flash movie in the DCU would far much better. And needless to say, the shared universe wasn't at all the exercise on depression and despair that some make it out to be, with Tone being the last of its issues. I think the tone has something to do with it. I just think the DCE movies for the larger general audience wasn't fun as opposed to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because Marvel at the time was just shelling out hits after hits after hits, and the DCEU was just a mixture of bad creative choices, bad business decisions, and movies that were not well received and not all that great. I think that was the major problem. So we'll see how James Gunn figures it out. But again, tone is part of an issue, but that's not the overall problem. The problem is getting back to the general audience and making great movies. That's the main focus should be. Forget about tone. Just concentrate on great storytelling, great characters, great movies, and the audience will follow. Love you all. Stay safe. Hit like, subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Discord, TikTok. This is Ash Sheiks. Let me know in the comments below. What do you think of this? I think James Gunn definitely has a lot on his plates, but I think he can deliver something truly worthwhile, especially as Superman fans and as DC brand as a whole. He needs to. He has to. Love you all. Stay safe. Truth. Oh, God. Ow.
Nigga, it's over.